least be a 4-finger gap between the 2 feet. We make the intention, raise both hands with the palms facing the Qibla. Men, it's recommended that they lift it up until their earlobes. You don't have to touch your earlobes, just in level with your earlobes. Women, up to the shoulders. Okay? Then you say Allahu Akbar and place the right hand over the left hand. The Prophet ﷺ said, all the prophets, whenever they prayed, when they tied their hands, they placed the right hand over the left hand. The right hand should be on top of the left hand, not vice versa. Now, where should it be placed? Some people, they get into big, huge debates and discussions. But just understand that there are both type of narrations. In some narrations, we find below the navel. In some narrations, we find on the chest. Both are valid. Imam Abu Hanifa says, for the males, it's below the navel. Okay, the Hanafi fiqh. Shafi fiqh says that it's on the chest. Okay, but the Hanafi fiqh says that's for the women. Okay, nevertheless, whichever one you wish to follow, both are mentioned in the hadith. It's not about halal and haram. It's not about right and wrong. It's about preference. Hanafi fiqh gives preference to that. The Shafi fiqh gives preference to that. We shouldn't debate and discuss and saying this is right and this is wrong, or this is a stronger one and this is a weaker one. No, both are acceptable because both are in the hadith and both have been practiced by companions. We find numerous companions who did it this way, and we find numerous companions who did it the other way. It's not about prohibited and non-prohibited or your validity of salah. It's just a preference, a matter of preference. Don't make this a debate or a discussion. Don't make it argumentation. It's invalid. There are more important things that we need to talk about. Okay, so after that, direct the gaze to the area where the head will rest while prostrating. So when we're standing, our gaze should be where we are going to make sujood. Okay, it shouldn't be on the clock. It shouldn't be on the Arabic writing. Okay, it should be where we are making sujood, concentration, right? Recite thana, okay, and then recite ta'awudh, that is a'udhu billah, and then recite bismillah, and then recite surah al-Fatiha, and a surah or a recitation of the Quran. Both, if we are in congregation, as I said earlier, then for the Hanafi followers, we just remain silent behind the Imam. And for the Shafi fiqh, minimum, the Fatiha must be recited. Okay, and then you say Ameen softly upon completion of Surah Al-Fatiha. Even Imam Shafi, who says you can recite it a little audibly, he doesn't say you recite it in such a way like one of my teachers would say. Some people say, instead of saying Ameen, they say, I'm in. He's just proving himself, I'm here. I'm in. Okay, you don't do it so loud. Ameen. No, the recommendation, even for those who follow the Shafi fiqh, is it's just so audible that you can hear it and a few people beside you can hear it. Okay? And for the Hanafi fiqh, it's silent. Okay? And the reason why we're saying Ameen, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ authentic that the Prophet ﷺ said that the angels say Ameen. And if our Ameen coincides with the angels' Ameen, then Allah blesses and us with forgiveness and great bounties. So whether we're saying it audibly or softly, the idea is we need to say it. It shouldn't be so loud that it disturbs everyone, and it shouldn't be so soft that we can't even articulate it or hear it ourselves. Okay, recite a surah or 3 short verses or 1 lengthy verse when leading a congregation or observing salah individually. Say Allahu Akbar and go into ruku'. So now we're going into ruku'. Again, there are various narrations. The Hanafi fiqh go into ruku' without raising the hands. Okay, in some fiqhs, such as the Shafi fiqh, you can raise your hands and go into ruku'. There are all forms of narration. All of them are acceptable. Again, it's a matter of preference. It's not a matter of what is right and wrong. Okay, it's a matter of preference. Okay. And then your body is going to be in ruku', 90-degree angle, so straight. So like the image that I have here, okay, we see the individual performing ruku', and it's a straight back. The head is also straight. Our head shouldn't be down. Sometimes the back is straight, but people put their heads down. Okay, but for the women it's different. According to the 3 imams, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, and Imam Malik, the woman's salah is different than the salah of a man. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal also agrees, but he says that it is quite similar to the men's salah. Okay? But the three imams, they agree that there is a difference. The difference is, there's one difference. A woman's salah is concealing. So they don't have to bend all the way down. They can bend down slightly. When they go into sujood, when women go into sujood, they shouldn't be separate and open their hands and their feet just like the men do. A woman should be concealed. So her hand should be on the ground, touching the ground. Her hands, her feet, and her abdomen should be attached, touching each other. Men, we're supposed to be open. We're supposed to stretch and make sure that everything is at distance. This is according to all four fiqhs, but there is one opinion of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal who says that the salah of a man and a woman are the same, but there are numerous narrations from the Azwajul Mutahhara, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ taught that the woman's salah should be concealing. It should be more restraint, constricted, rather than like the man. So that's why you'll see here the different rulings. So, where was I here? So you say Allahu Akbar, go into ruku, bend 90 degrees, keeping the back straight with the head leveled with the back. Grip the knees with the palms. Spread the fingers out and fix the gaze between the feet. So we're going to look where the feet are. Okay, recite the tasbih 3 times or an odd number. Say Sami Allahu liman hamida and stand straight when leading a congregation or observing salah individually. It makes no difference. You stand up straight. Say the words of Allah's praise. That means Rabbana wa lakal hamd or Rabbana lakal hamd. Both are in the narrations. And then you say Allahu Akbar and go into sujood. Again, there are various narrations. In some narrations, you can raise your hands before you go down into sujood. In other narrations, the Prophet ﷺ didn't do it that way. Again, a matter of preference. Okay, and then when you go into sujood, by placing the knees on the ground first, followed by the hands, then the nose, then finally the forehead. And when you get up, it's going to be vice versa. So first your knees, then your hands, then the nose, then finally the forehead. And this is important. In the books of fiqh, through the hadith, we find at least the nose or the forehead should be on the ground. Both is preferred, but one of them minimum should be on the ground. The forehead or the nose. Both is to have both is preferred. Okay, men keep the hands by the head with the fingers closed and facing the qibla. Keep the abdomen away. It should be open, as I talked about earlier, from the thighs. The arms raised from the ground, away from the flanks. Position the toes towards the qibla. Okay, so a man's posture is open. The Prophet ﷺ said a da'n, a sheep, a small sheep should be able to go underneath. When we're making sujood, especially if we're doing it individually. If we're in congregation, the person next to us, we don't have that much space. But when we're individual, then we should be open. There should be space. Our arms should not be on the ground. Our stomach should not be on the ground. Abdomen should not be on the ground. It should be open, spaced out. But when it comes to the women, as I pointed out earlier through the various reports and narrations, a woman keeps the hand by the shoulders, so they'll keep them attached, not separate. Keep them attached. With the fingers closed and facing the qibla. Attach the abdomen to the thighs. Again, it's going to be restraint and constraint. And rest the forearms on the grounds. Their arms are going to be on the grounds. A man's going to be up, but a woman's going to be down. Keeping them attached to the flanks as agreed by mainstream schools of fiqh. Okay, recite the tasbih 3 times or odd number. Say Allahu Akbar, sit up placing both hands on the thighs with the tips of the fingers touching the edge of the knees. So people ask this question generally, where do we keep our hands? Up here in the middle or closer to the knees? So we find in the narrations it's closer to the knees. Okay, then men sit on the left foot with the right foot propped up and its toes facing the qibla. There's 2 ways of sitting. Okay, as we can see in this image here, this is what is being described here. So the right foot will be standing up. So if you're looking at a person, then it would be like this. This would be the right foot and resting on the left. Okay, but there's another way of sitting also, is to take out both feet. There's a difference of opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa and other scholars say that in all sitting postures, this is how we sit. Imam Shafi says in one posture we would sit like this, in the other we would sit tawarruk. Okay, but Imam Abu Hanifa says that's for the women, to keep their rear ends on the ground, because their salah is to be constrained. whereas a man should be like this. Whichever fiqh is followed, whichever that we should go according to that. But again, it's a matter of preference. It's not about right and wrong. Don't make it a debate. Don't make it a discussion. Okay, then you say Allahu Akbar, go into sujood. Say Allahu Akbar and stand from sujood by raising the head, followed by the hands and then the knees. So when you raise, you go opposite to how you came down. Right? Repeat points above with the exception of thana, ta'awudh and basmala. That means when you're in your next rak'ah, you don't need to repeat thana. You don't need to repeat a'udhu and bismillah. If someone does, it's fine, but it's not necessary. Saying Allahu Akbar and sit up described above. Recite the tashahhud. So if it's a 2 rak'ah salah, then we're going to now be sitting and reciting tashahhud, at-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawat, etc. When reciting ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the finger on the right hand with the thumb, okay, placed on the middle finger and raised the index finger. Again, there are numerous narrations, but generally when we say ashhadu an la ilaha, we raise our hand, and when we say illallah, finger, and then we put it down. There are some narrations, you see the narration is very vague. It says ishara, to give a signal. Now a signal can be given like this, or a signal can be given like this. Again, it's a matter of preference. It's not about right and wrong. So Imam Abu Hanifa says you give your signal by just saying ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And there are some other scholars who say no, you continue to shake it. There are some fiqhs where they point out you raise it and you don't put it down, just leave it up. Again, it's a matter of preference. It's not a matter of right and wrong. It's not a matter of who's right and who's wrong. You find numerous narrations. The narrations are quite vague, and this is why there's the difference of opinion. So that's what we do there. And then if the prayer consists of 3 or 4 rak'ahs, then stand upon completing the tashahhud and carry out the remaining rak'ah as described before, with the additional exception of reciting a surah following the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha if it is a fard prayer. If the prayer is limited to 2 rak'ahs, remain seated and recite the salawat and taslim. So this is one point that is important. If it is a fard prayer, we only do recitation of a surah in the first 2 rak'ahs. If it's a fard prayer, we only do recitation of a surah with the Fatiha in the first 2 rak'ahs. If it's a Nafl prayer or a Sunnah prayer or an optional prayer, then we recite Quran in every single rak'ah. Understand the point? If it's a fard prayer, we only do recitation of the surah in the first 2 rak'ahs. In the second 2 rak'ahs, or if it's Maghrib, in the 3rd rak'ah, we only say Surah Al-Fatiha. But when it comes to the optional prayers, Sunnah, Nafl, Mustahab, Haja, whatever kind of salah it is, we do recitation of Quran or surah in every single rak'ah. Okay, that's important. And then finally we say Salamu Alaikum by turning the head on the right and look on the right shoulder, and then we turn towards the left and say Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullah and look on the left shoulder. It's mentioned in some of the books of fiqh that we make intention that we're making salam to all the people on our right and all the people on our left. And when we conclude, we leave with this peace and this salam. Salam means peace. So we leave with the message of peace. So I'm going to head towards my conclusion. There are some things that are disliked in salah, but just to give a summary, you can read that on your own. I'm just pointing out a few points here. Anything that causes laziness. For example, a person standing as if he's lazy. You see people standing like this. So you're supposed to be awake. You're supposed to be alert when you're in front of the Creator. You wouldn't stand like that in front of your boss or when you go for an interview. Okay? Anything that is a distraction, stay away from it. Okay, so you don't send your text messages in salah. Okay? You don't turn off your phone while you're in salah. Turn it off before salah. Yes, if you forgot and it's ringing, okay, then with amalul qaleel, with least movement, you can press the button. Okay, but don't go take it out. Say, oh, who's calling? So these are some people, they watch TV while they're performing salah. So this is not how we do it. Anything that is a distraction, we remove it. Anything that is disrespectful, we should stay away from. So, for example, I wouldn't go for an interview in pajamas. So why should I pray salah in pajamas? That's disrespectful. I know people who have specific clothing for salah. It's clean, it's pure. They make sure it's special for salah, and they wear it when they perform salah. This is what you call respect. Okay? We should be careful about these things. Yes, if someone does perform in their pajamas, as long as it's pure and clean, salah is valid, no doubt. But these are disliked actions, makruh actions. Okay? We should be respectful in salah. You're performing salah with a t-shirt that has Dora on it. Okay? Or it has an animate figure. Okay? Or it has some statement on it that's disrespectful. You know, F-U-C-K. You know, I've seen t-shirts with that, with those letters. Okay, and a person's performing with this t-shirt, salah. So these are disrespectful things. Yes, your salah is valid because it's clean, it's covering your body, but is it respectful? Do you want to stand before Allah with these type of t-shirts? Okay. Anything that is against the sunnah posture or method would be regarded as disliked. So the Prophet ﷺ, he recommended that our back should be straight. So if we're going to deliberately, for men, if we're going to deliberately be in a lax position that's not straight, it's going against the sunnah that would be disliked. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ recommended odd number. Inna Allaha witrun yuhibbul witr. So if we deliberately say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, instead of an odd number, we say an even number. If we deliberately do it, this is going against the sunnah, so it's disliked. Okay? Explicitly declared in source text. There are some things that are explicitly mentioned. For example, yawning in salah. The Prophet ﷺ has explicitly mentioned. He said it's from the devil. When you yawn in salah, it's from the devil. The Prophet ﷺ said this. So, we should try and avoid it. And scientifically, a scholar told me this. He said, scientifically, when you are alert, you'll never yawn. If you are not alert, or if you're in a state of laziness, then you will be susceptible to yawning. So if we are alert, it won't happen. Sometimes it's beyond our control, it does happen. Okay, but it's recommended that we should try and conceal it, cover it, hold it. Okay, and then actions that invalidate the prayer. Again, I'm not going to read the details, that you can read that on your own time. I'm just pointing out a few things here. Engaging in any action that is not considered part of salah. If someone does something that is not part of salah, and it becomes apparent that this person is not in salah, then that action invalidates the prayer. So for example, answering a phone call, talking, eating, these are things that break the salah because it's an action that is going against the traits of salah, the actual purpose and objective of salah. So any action that is not considered part of salah. Speech or replying to speech. Okay, if someone says Assalamu alaikum and you reply Wa alaikum assalam. Okay, you're replying to speech. There is some detail in this amongst the fuqaha, but in general, if anyone some person's performing salah and someone comes in the room and says, where's the remote? And you're replying. Okay? You're replying to speech. You're conversing with Allah, not with humans right now. Okay? If you want to really respond, break your salah, respond and repeat your salah. Okay, explicitly mentioned in source text. There are some things in the list that are very clearly mentioned that would break the salah, such as laughing loud in salah. That breaks the salah. Eating breaks the salah. Okay? Excessive movement. Al-amalul kathir. Excessive movement breaks the salah. So the other day someone also asked the question, during the Taraweeh, the microphone fell. Okay, why didn't the Hafiz pick it up? So the ruling is he should have picked it up with little movement and put it back on, because obviously there's a congregation. If they can't hear, they're going to get confused. Is he doing ruku or sujood? Especially the sisters downstairs. So if it can be done with amalul qaleel, with less movement, then it's fine, it's jaiz, it's permissible. But to do it with excessive, so a person lets loose of both of his hands and now is looking for it and moving direction from qibla and then grabbing something and then putting on, that's impermissible. That would break the salah. But least movement, amalul qaleel is permissible. Amalul kathir is not permissible. Now there's a whole debate amongst the fuqaha. What is amalul qaleel and what is amalul kathir? So I've just pointed out a few things here. An action, this is amalul kathir, excessive movement. An action that would lead an onlooker to believe that the person is not praying. If you feel that by doing this action, An onlooker would think I'm not performing salah. The fuqaha say this is what you call amalul kathir. This is one opinion. Another opinion is a non-action for a duration of 3 subhanallahs. So a person is doing something that is not part of salah. For example, turning off the phone. That's not part of salah. But if it's done to the extent that it's more than saying 3 subhanallah, 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 subhanallah. If they take more time than this, then that breaks their salah, according to one fiqh opinion. Okay? So doing a non-action for the duration of 3 subhanallahs. And the third opinion amongst the fuqaha is a slight movement repeated several times. So for example, scratching your face. It's not part of salah. Okay? But you repeat it several times. You're in qiyam, you're in one posture, and every few seconds you're going. That breaks your salah because you're excessively doing it. Yes, if there's a need, you do it once and that's it. Okay, you don't repeat it so excessive. These are the 3 opinions. Some scholars say the first one. Some scholars say the second one. Some scholars say 3. Some scholars say all of them. So it's up to you which one you want to choose. But the idea is don't do an action that is not part of salah in salah unless it's necessary. And do it with amalul qalil, with the least movement possible. Okay, there are some prayers that are connected to the fard salah. And again, I'm not going to read this. You can have a look at that on your sheets there. I've pointed out all the narrations. And generally this table is available in all the books of fiqh, even the basic books. There are some sunnahs that we perform before the fard, some after the fard. There are some nafl prayers. There's witr prayer with isha that some scholars regard it as an emphasized sunnah. Some scholars regard it as wajib, as mandatory. And then with Jummah, there are several sunnahs too. Again, all these narrations are on page 9 of your handouts. And one final thing that I want to discuss before we finally conclude is dealing with doubts. This is a problem specifically nowadays with many of us. They say the general average, attention span is 20 minutes. Okay? So sometimes we're performing salah, we forget. How many rakahs did I perform? Was it 3? Was it 4? Was it 2? Was it 1? Did I do tashahud? Did I not do tashahud? Did I perform dhuhr or did I not perform dhuhr? Okay, so these are all doubts that are created. Sometimes the doubt is about wudu. I'm about to perform dhuhr. Do I have wudu or do I not have wudu? I don't know. Should I do wudu or should I repeat it? Should I not repeat it? What do I do? So this is natural. We're human beings. So there's a general principle. The principle is certainty is not removed by doubt. Al-yaqinu la yazulu bish-shak. What this means is, if you are certain that you've performed your wudu, in the morning you performed your wudu, you're sure of that. But now you're unsure if you released wind or not. So technically, according to the fiqh opinion, the doubt cannot remove the certainty. You're doubtful whether your wudu broke or not, but you're certain you did perform wudu. So you can go ahead and perform your salah. But the scholars do say, if you have the opportunity to repeat the wudu, do it. Okay? But technically, the certainty cannot be removed by the doubt. Unless you're certain, yes, I did release wind. I smelt it. So I know now. So I have to repeat my wudu. Because certainty now is being removed with certainty. Right? You understand the principle? Al-yaqinu la yazulu bish-shak. The certainty, the absolute thing cannot be shaken or cannot be removed by that which is doubtful. Same with the number of rakahs. If a person is in doubt, did I perform 2 rakahs? Did I perform 3 rakahs? So if they're more inclined towards the 3, then it will be 3. Okay? If they're in doubt, the doubt should not remove the absolute. Now, if they're in a situation where they have no inclination, it's just a doubt, then in that case, the scholars say, take the minimum number. So if you're in doubt, you're supposed to be performing 4 rakahs, you performed, you're in between, you don't know if it's 3 or 2. So what's the minimum number? 2. So then what do you do is, at the end of the prayer, just do sujood sahwa. So if there was something extra, it would be recovered. Okay? And if there was something reduced, it would be recovered. So that's what the fuqaha have written, but this is a general principle. Certainty is not removed with doubt. So with this I conclude. I apologize for taking at least 20-25 minutes more above time, but I hope this workshop was of benefit to everyone. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to make us pure, and may Allah keep us steadfast on our prayer, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our acts of worship. If there are any questions right now, I'm more than willing to answer any questions. If brothers or sisters have any questions, sisters can send up their questions with some volunteers. Brothers, you can just raise your hand. Those of you that would like to leave, most certainly you can leave, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Yes. Okay, so the brother's question is, if a person wants to do qada umri, they want to make up for their previous salahs that they've missed, but they don't know how much it is. How do they go about doing it? The ruling is that you make an estimate. So you come to a decision that, okay, I reached the age of maturity. I became 15 or 14 at this specific time, and these few years or this many years, I didn't perform any salah, or I didn't perform my fajr prayer, I performed all other prayers. So you make an estimation, it's this many salah, and then you make the intention, okay, now I'm performing my very last fajr salah which I've missed, my very last dhuhr salah which I've missed. Like that, you're specifying the salah, and through the estimation, you can have an idea of how many years, and then you can try and continue doing them, making up for them. And hopefully, if you're steadfast on that, even if you pass away not making up for them, but you were resolved to do it, Allah would give you the reward as if you've done it. Okay, but you have to commit yourself and start making up for it, inshallah. Yeah, that's what I said. You make your intention that this is the salah, the very last fajr which I've missed. So it's specified. You got to specify. You can't just say I'm doing qada of dhuhr. You got to say I'm doing qada of the very first dhuhr which I've missed, or the very last dhuhr which I've missed. Or if you know the date, you can say the dhuhr that I missed on this date, so and so date. Right? Then that's fine. Yes. Yes. Blood sampling does not break the fast, but it does break the wudu. You asking about fasting or wudu? Wudu, yeah. So when blood comes out, okay, it breaks the wudu. Yeah. Yes, brother had a question at the beginning. Okay, good. MashaAllah. Yes. Right. Okay, good. I was supposed to say the explanation there. So what it is that modern day we use washing machines. So one cycle would be regarded as one-time rinsing. A second cycle would be regarded as a second rinsing. And in fact, if you look at the machines, it happens, 50 times. Okay, they do, it goes so many times, cycle. And each cycle, what happens is the water comes in, it washes it, and then the water is pulled out, and then it comes back in, it does another cycle. So the scholars have done thorough study. The Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami in Saudi Arabia, they've done a thorough study looking at the machines, looking at the different way the water comes in, how it goes out, and they've come to a conclusion that each cycle would constitute one time of washing and rinsing. Yes. Go ahead. So you're saying that a person joined the congregation. Yes. He's about to say the salam. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, yes. Oh, yes, like in Taraweeh prayers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you see, I got your question. Jazakallah. So a person who's following the imam, if the imam is very fast at saying tashahhud, salat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, and the dua, and you're still on your tashahhud, or you're just about to start your salat, durood, what do? The ruling is the minimum that you have to perform or recite is tashahhud. If you've done at-tahiyyatu lillah to the end, then you can make salam with the imam. If you're still reciting tashahhud, finish your tashahhud, then make salam. Okay, the minimum is the tashahhud. Okay? You just do it, yeah, you just do it. Because the next rak'ah that the imam will start, especially in Taraweeh, he's going to recite Fatiha, he's going to recite a surah. But it's recommended that you should join it with the imam. So the minimum is you do your tashahhud, and then if you can't read further, just make salam and join the imam. It's more important to join the imam than to finish your durood and your dua. Tashahhud you must complete. Okay? Yes. Wa alaikum assalam. Very, very good. The question is that if you've done your ghusl, do you need to repeat your wudu? The answer is no, unless you've released some wind or something happened that broke your wudu. Because when you do your ghusl, when you wash your entire body and you've done the fard, then you're clean, you are also in the state of wudu. You can perform salah, you can touch the Quran. Now if you're about to perform salah or touch the Quran and you've released wind, then in that case you should repeat your wudu. Okay? Yes. Yeah, it's preferred to make the niyyah that I'm doing ghusl and wudu, but it's not necessary. Right? Imam al-Shafi'i says the niyyah must be there. So if you follow the fiqh, then you should make the intention. Okay, I'm going to answer some of these questions also. Yes, go ahead. Right. Yeah, this is also mentioned in the books of fiqh that if a person has no access to water, then they would do dry ablution, which is tayammum, right? And then there's a whole debate, a discussion on how tayammum is done, but basically you tap your hands on anything that would have dust or earth, on the earth or anything that would have natural dust. And then you would just wipe your face and your arms from the beginning of your fingers up to your elbow. And that's your tayammum. That's dry ablution. Another scenario is, as you pointed out, is a person does have water. Let's say they're in the desert. Okay? They have only a bottle of water, and that water is for survival. They need to drink it to survive, or else they might die. So in that case, again, they either do tayammum, or if they feel that they can use some parts to do just the fard, then they just do the fard and keep the rest for the survival. If they feel that if they use it for the wudu, then the water would deplete and then there would be no sign of survival. In that case, they just do tayammum. They just do dry ablution. Yeah. So some of the sisters also have a few questions. The sister is saying, I am confused of what was said regarding the abdomen and the thighs and resting the forearms on the ground. According to Bukhari hadith, if any person, whether a woman or a man, should not rest the forearm on the ground, it is considered as lying down like a dog. Right, so this sister is pointing out a hadith. That hadith doesn't give specification of man or woman. The hadith simply says that you're not supposed to put your forearms on the ground, etc. Now, this is a general hadith. We look at so many other narrations, so many other reports that give clarification of this hadith, which shows that a woman should perform her salah constrained. And if the sister wants, I have written a whole detailed discussion on what the differences are of a man's prayer and a woman's prayer. And this is, as I said, this is the opinion of all four fiqhs. Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. There's one opinion of Imam Ahmad who says that there's no difference between the salah of a man and a woman, but majority of the scholars say there is a difference and the salah of a woman is constrained. So this hadith that she's referring to, you see, a scholar understands the hadith in context. A layman doesn't understand the hadith in context. If I pick up a book, if I'm a general layman, I pick up a book of hadith, I read the hadith, oh, this is what is being said, I've been doing wrong. But what's the context to it? When was it said? Who was it said to? Why was it said? What's the background? Are there any other hadith that support this? Are there any other narrations that came after this? Who will tell you this? It's the scholars, the field. If I want to know something about medicine, I'm not going to ask a person who's the cleaner here. I'm going to go to the doctor. He's the expert. He will speak in context. So when we understand our deen, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah says, if you don't know, ask the people of knowledge. So there's a context to this hadith and the other hadith, and you put everything together, you'll understand that the majority view is that the salah of a woman is different than a man. But those who follow the one opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, there's no argument against them. But in general, there is a difference between man and a woman's prayer. Aisha radiallahu anha, Hafsa radiallahu anha, so many of these sahabiyat, they would perform salah different than the man. And that is clear example. They learnt it from the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, and there's books written on this. So if the sister feels, she can get in touch with me. I'll direct her to some of those books, inshallah. There's another question from the sister side. If a baby who might have impurities in their diapers uses you for support, or you hold them, does that nullify your wudu or prayer? So I believe that the sister is trying to say that the sister is in wudu and she's taking care of a baby or something and the diaper is spoiled. Then the wudu will not break unless something of that filth comes on the body and it is not washed. If it's not washed from the body, then you can't pray. So if you wash it, then you can pray. Your wudu is still intact. Okay? So just by touching filth, it doesn't break the wudu. You got to wash it off your body. So if it's still in the diaper and you're just holding the baby and there's no filth coming on you, there's no impurities coming on you, then there's nothing to do. You can perform your salah without repeating your wudu. There's a question here about performing salah on a chair. So I guess the person wants to know how to perform salah on a chair. If a person is excused from standing, then they just remain seated on their chair. And the method is that when they're doing their qiyam, they're sitting up straight. When they're going into ruku, they bend slightly and their hands remain just on close to their knees. And then when they're going into sujood, they bend a little more and the hands still remain on the knees. They don't need to go forward. Okay, I see this many times that some people, when they go into sujood on a chair, they put their hands forward. That's not necessary. Their hands should remain on the knees in both ruku and sujood. The only difference is in ruku, it's slightly more closer to qiyam, and in sujood, the incline is more towards the ground, but the hands remain on the position there. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so this other question is if someone is at work, they do have access to water, but making wudu would make things dirty and it would be difficult to wash the feet in the sink, etc. So how would we perform wudu? So it's actually, this depends on your situation. You know, a person who's committed, they would be able to do it and they would clean after themselves. They would make sure they clean themselves. Another thing is that you wash all your parts how you generally would. Your hands, your face. You just do the fard, your arms, your face, make masa. When it comes to the feet, instead of carrying your feet onto the sink, take a tissue, wet the tissue, and then just wet every portion of your foot. You don't need to bring your foot up there. If water has reached all the area of your foot that is fard, then your wudu is done. Another procedure is masah al khuffain. You can make masa over your socks. Now there's a in-depth discussion what kind of socks. Okay? Na'lain, jawrabain, there's different types of socks. The Hanafi position is very strict. You can only do it on socks that are thick, extremely thick, and they are not tied on. These socks that we generally wear, they're tied on us through elastics. Okay? leather socks, for example, would be permissible. But there is some flexibility in the Hanbali opinion, the Hanbali fiqh, as long as they are socks that a person can walk in for a few kilometers without tearing. They're thick, but they don't have to be leather, then it's fine. Some scholars, Imam Shafi says there should be leather at the bottom, doesn't have to be at the top. Then it's fine. So the idea is that if you have thick socks, then instead of washing your feet, then you can simply just make masa over the feet, depending on which fiqh you follow and how suitable the area is. But really, if you contact your human resources department, you tell them this is what I do, and I usually would go to a mosque, but because I'm at work, I don't want to go. I'm going to pray here, and I would require extra 5 minutes, and I'm going to clean up after myself. Inform, educate people about your religion. In Niagara Falls, if you go Niagara Falls, most of us probably be there. In that place where you go to the washroom, there's a special place to wash your feet. And to my understanding, someone told me that it was at the request of the numerous visitors that came from Muslims who would do wudu there. So they saw so many people coming and making wudu. So they said, look, if you don't want this to happen, make some accommodation for us. They made the accommodation where you can wash your feet. Educate people about your religion, and they'll make amends. It's an accommodation that they'll do. This is our right. Every person who lives in Canada, according to the Charter of Rights, we have a right to practice our religion, as long as it's not interfering on someone else's right. And to wash ourselves in a specific way, it doesn't interfere on anyone's right. But yes, be particular about cleanliness. Don't take advantage. Don't make a swimming pool there. Clean after yourselves, dry it up, make sure you're being careful, and then you'll see how people will respect you for that. Yes. Up. From your toes up, at least 3 fingers go up like this. Yeah. Yes. Leather socks? No, it doesn't have to be from a slaughtered animal. Most scholars say if it's gone through a cleaning process, apart from the swine. If it's gone through a cleaning process, they call it dibagha, which means a special way of drying the leather and going through chemical cleaning. Then once it's purified in that way, then that leather can be utilized, whether it's from an animal that was slaughtered in a permissible way or whether it was not, apart from the swine, right? Okay, I have a question here. If the wind passes and you break your wudu, do we simply make wudu, or we have to clean the private parts with water and make wudu? The ruling is that if we just pass wind, then we don't need to clean the area, the private organ. We just make wudu. Unless when we have passed the wind, there's some residue or there's some stool that comes out. In that case, we would have to definitely wash. While praying, can one close the eyes? Generally, the scholars say that if it's not for concentration, we shouldn't close the eyes. It's makruh. It's disliked. But if it's for concentration, then it is permissible. Is it enough to pour water over the feet to clean in wudu, or do we have to rub your feet? To pour water is minimum. If water has reached the entire portion of the feet that is required to be washed, that's done. But it's mustahab, it's sunnah to rub also while you're washing. Okay, so some people are asking here, how important it is to put the feet on the ground when making sujood? So there is one sound narration where the Prophet ﷺ has indicated that the feet should be on the ground. So the scholars have come to an agreement, at least one toe should be touching the ground when we're making sujood. If both the feet are up in such a way, I don't think so this can happen, but if someone does it in that way, where their knees are on the ground but both their feet are up and all the toes are above, then according to most scholars and most fiqh, the salah is invalid. So we should at least have at least one toe on the ground. Okay, that's the ruling there. When praying qasr of dhuhr, Qasr means we're shortening the prayer because we're in travel. And it's Asr time. Which prayer is performed first, Dhuhr or Asr? You should perform Dhuhr first. If you're combining prayers in travel, you perform the first prayer first and then the second prayer. And one more question I have here. If you're offering a prayer beside a brother, I think he's saying, is stinking and smelling out of his mouth, can you move from your saf, or how to break it? Okay, so I guess this person is saying he's standing beside someone who has a bad odor or a bad smell. First of all, we should prepare ourselves before we come for salah. خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, this is a verse of the Quran. Allah says, whenever you come to the masjid, whenever you come to make sujood, take your beautification with you, meaning prepare yourselves, clean yourselves. At Jummah, why did the Prophet ﷺ instruct that a bath should be taken? Imam Shafi says it's fard, it's wajib to make ghusl. Imam Hanifa says it's sunnah mu'akkada for Jummah. Why? Because the congregation is bigger and we don't want to inconvenience someone. So first of all, the ruling is that we should make sure that we don't have any odors on us. If we're smokers, make sure the odor is gone. If we're in the kitchen, make sure that the smell of the onions and the garlic, etc., the spices are not on our clothing. And then come to the masjid. But for some reason or the other, if someone is in this situation where they're standing beside someone and it's totally unbearable, then it's permissible to break the salah. The person is asking how to break the salah. Just make salam on both sides and go stand somewhere else. That's fine. And then if it's a congregation, then they would complete the rows. Someone else will be disturbed. But the idea is, it is permissible if it's unbearable. Because the idea is you want to concentrate. And if you can't concentrate because of the smell or the odor, it is permissible to break the salah and relocate yourself. That is permissible. Yes. Okay, Jummah at work. If there are other Muslims in your work, then you should pray your Jummah at work if they don't give you permission to leave. So you can try and locate in your company, in your organization, are there any other Muslims? The minimum according to Imam Shafi is 3, according to Imam Abu Hanifa is 4 people. The Imam and 3 people, and Imam Shafi says the Imam and 2 people. If you have this amount of people, you can do a quick Jummah. If there are any, then the hadith does point out a person who misses 3 consecutive Jummahs, then they can be listed amongst the disbelievers. So every 3rd Jummah you should try and make, and again, you should try and come up with some accommodation. You can ask your employer that, okay, I'm going to take out this time, but I'm going to make up for it. Okay, I'll work extra hours. On certain day, I'll come in early. Okay, or after Jummah, I'll come back, do extra 2 hours. And I'm sure they'll accommodate you because it's a right of Canadian citizens. One last question here. How would one position himself or herself in front of the Qibla if he or she needs to lie down to pray? Okay, so if a person is in such injury or situation where they are lying down, they must lie down and pray, then in that case, their feet are going to be towards the Qibla. And they should put a pillow under their head so that their face can slightly face towards the Qibla also. And then they would just make ishara, make signs and signify the ruku and the sujood. Okay, and just by saying the words Allahu Akbar, etc. And that's obviously if a person is in a real situation of emergency, health, injury, etc. Okay, one last question. Okay, so the brother is asking that if a person is in travel and they are about to miss a prayer because they don't have tahara, so can they combine the 2 prayers when they get to the destination? Is that your question? Okay, and you're in travel. If you're in travel, Shar'i travel is that you go beyond 80 kilometers. You're in Shar'i travel. That means you're a traveler according to Islam. In travel, you can combine prayers. Okay? There's different ways of doing it. according to different fiqhs. But you can combine prayers when you're in travel. So in this scenario that you're saying, let's say the brother gave the example, you're about to perform asr, but you lost your wudu, and you're going to get to the destination, you're in travel. So can you combine asr and maghrib? Yes, you can. Okay, because you're in travel. But if you're not in travel, so you're going to work to home, okay, it's not 80 kilometers, then in that case you can't do any sort of combining of prayers. Combining of prayers is only permissible in travel. And travel is if it's beyond 80 kilometers. If it's less than 80 kilometers, we cannot combine prayers. It just becomes qada. Or you stop your car somewhere and you find a place, you make wudu and you perform your salah. Yes, one last question. Okay, so the brother is asking that the brother was late for Isha prayer, missed his Isha prayer, and the Taraweeh is going on. They should quickly go to a side and perform Isha prayer and then come and join the Taraweeh prayer. This is the instruction. According to Imam al-Shafi'i, you can also join the Taraweeh with the intention of Isha prayer. But Imam Abu Hanifa's fiqh and Imam Malik's fiqh, etc., they say that the Imam should always be in a stronger position. The fard is the strong. A person can perform Nafl behind if the Imam is doing fard. But if the Imam is doing Nafl or optional, then a person behind cannot make the intention of something stronger, which is fard. So that's why the general principle is that you perform your Isha quickly on the side and then you join the Taraweeh. But if someone is following the Shafi'i fiqh, then they can join the congregation with the intention of doing Isha. And after the 2 rakahs, they get up and complete the 2 rakahs of their Isha. So that's based on what fiqh you follow. Jazakumullahu khairan. With this I conclude. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, give us the understanding of our deen, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our ibadat and acts of worship, and may Allah give us tafaqquh fi deen, that is understanding in deen, and may Allah grant us success and salvation in this world and the everlasting life of the hereafter. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.